Hi friends, my name is Al or at Lilstarnerd on Instagram, and welcome to today's episode of Crippling Procrastination. Crippling Procrastination. As you can see, the painting that I'm working on today has already been thoroughly started. That's because I'm attempting to complete a painting that I started and then sat aside over a year ago. Maybe 2 years? Like a long time. If you guys don't know, way back at the start of my channel, I did a thing where I challenged myself to paint 20 portraits in 2 weeks. One of those portraits was my very good friend Erin, but the thing is, the portrait kind of sucked. Like, it just did not look like her at all. Painting or drawing someone you know really well is very, very hard. And I just felt really bad, so I said I would paint another one of her to make up for the fact that I did her dirty. And then I started that painting, and then I just never finished it. I don't even know when it was. It was so long ago at this point. But, oops. Oops. The painting is done with acrylic paint on a smooth gesso board. That's literally it. Nothing special going on. But anyways, obviously there's already an underpainting here, an entire underpainting. Back when I first started it, I was just starting to experiment with washes, like the hot pink layer I usually do with all my paintings. At the time, I didn't have pink acrylic paint, which is what I wanted to use. So instead, I had to use like this golden yellow, or I think it was like a neon yellow, a yellow, because I thought it would work with like the lighting and the tones of the picture. This I think was my first time using an underpainting wash like that, so I wasn't really sure what it would do or how to utilize it. I just kind of wanted to see what would happen, and I ended up like an hour into the painting being like, what the fuck, what was the point of that? It was a waste of time. I feel differently about it now, but at the time it did not seem useful at all. So then I started actually painting, and I was a little unsure of my process because if I remember right, this was one of the first paintings I did after a short break after completing my 20 portraits challenge. At the time, I was just so burnt out with painting and doing portraits, so I wanted to take a break from it for a while and then do another portrait sometime later to see if that challenge had led to any improvement. And I think it did. I definitely felt more confident and sure of myself with my painting process, but I was still kind of burnt out, which led to me abandoning the painting. Oops. And while I was more confident, it was kind of hard to get into the right headspace because for most of those paintings from the challenge, I had been speed painting. I was being purposely sloppy and loose in order to go quicker and finish them faster within the 2 weeks. And for this painting of my friend, I wanted it to be a lot nicer and more detailed, to look more polished, and I hadn't done that in a long time. I had just done all of these sloppy paintings, and so I was struggling to get this painting where I wanted it to be. Now though, I feel more confident in general about being able to achieve the style that I want for this painting. I've done a few other acrylic portraits since that proved to me that I can definitely do it, that I can achieve the style that I'm picturing. However, I am nervous about having to paint someone I know really well. So there were a few things I knew I wanted to tackle right off the bat with my attempt to complete this painting. I think it's a great base. I love the colors I've put down. I can definitely see where all the features are, where the shadows and the lights are. It's definitely abstract, but I think if I just slapped on some details, I could have passed this painting off as complete as it was if I really wanted to. So I had a great starting point, but there were some things that I could just clearly see needed to be changed. The first is the angle that the head is at. The photo is a selfie, and selfies are generally really hard to paint and draw from, at least for me, because the perspective is often really distorted. That's one of the major reasons my first attempt at painting Erin turned out so badly. But in this photo, her head is clearly angled down slightly, making her face look quite long and elegant. In the painting, I've definitely shortened her face and distorted the angle to make it seem as if she's looking dead on at the camera, and there's no weird selfie perspective. I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but it's definitely not true to the photo. It didn't look bad, and I think it still resembled Erin, but it lost some of the drama of the photo. Secondly is the background color. It's not wrong, I just don't like it. It was a bad choice that I only kept because I wanted to feel like the yellow underpainting wasn't useless. And finally, her mouth and nose. The lips weren't really painted on, which is partly the problem, but also her mouth was just way too low, which made her face look kind of weird, and her nose was a little high up too. So I started working on those major fixes. I lengthened the face, fixed the jawline, the hairline. The color I mixed was way different than what was already down, so I ended up kind of redoing the whole face anyways, but that bottom layer definitely worked well as an underpainting. While I was more confident going into this round 2, it did take me a few minutes to kind of get into the flow of things. This is, I think, the first time that I've ever in my life picked up a halfway complete painting. like I've never revisited a year-old painting, you know what I mean? So I was unsure how it would work or if I'd be successful, kind of getting back into a disrupted flow. Do you know what I mean? But after a few minutes, I realized, like, okay, I'm basically just painting over this whole thing anyways. It's like the same thing as having the sketch done. I'm just gonna need, like, fewer layers of paint. So for a while, I was using my square brush to get in those broad strokes of the face, carving out her forehead and jaw to get that proper angle I wanted, blocking in light and shadow. I definitely had a hard time on the right cheek, getting that deep shadow and the line of her cheekbone. I didn't really commit to any of the harsh shadows, like under her nose, under her hair on her forehead. For some reason, it was just really feeling like this painting should be softer and lighter, and I am really happy that I went with that choice, but I think it did lose a little bit of the drama of the original photo. After getting most of her face blocked in, I covered up that ugly yellow background with a nice pale purple. I chose that color because I knew I was going to use that color for the light spots in her hair, and I thought it would tie everything in nicely. I definitely prefer this color to the yellow. I think it again helps make the painting softer, prettier. That yellow still peeks through in a few places, which I actually really like. I've noticed that I'm really enjoying like messy, half-finished elements in my art, especially in acrylic paintings. The shirt, listen. We don't need to talk about her shirt, okay? It looks bad. I'm aware, I know. Maybe I'll cover it up or I'll fix it or something in another year. But I was more focused on like desperately trying to get her face to look right rather than worrying about some dumb plaid. So, you know, just do me a favor. Ignore that, okay? Great. My strategy for acrylic painting is to use a wider brush to block in stuff, and then when I get sick of that, I take a smaller round brush and I start adding detail. The detail kind of masks how unfinished the painting actually is and tricks you into thinking the whole painting is actually like super good and detailed, even though it's not. And doing that detail is one of my favorite parts. I mean, I think I genuinely enjoy most parts of painting a portrait because like when I was blocking in areas and I had to like blend in the light skin tones with like the blushy red parts, I loved that, really enjoyed that. So like I love all of portraiture, but my favorite part is definitely adding the detail. This painting was definitely challenging with that. Like I said, it's really hard to draw or paint people that you know really well. For one, you know their face really, really well, so it's really easy to see any mistakes you make, or for it to like, it's really easy for it to not look like them because you know them so well. And secondly, I think it's just like a mental block that I personally have. Like ever since I was young, I haven't been able to do it. I don't know what it is, but I can't do it. I just can't. I battled for a while with her jawline and chin. I made sure to lower her nose and thicken her lips to fix that space, but I still think the proportions aren't quite right, mainly in the chin. And like just her jaw. Like Erin has a very distinctive face shape and jawline. It's very regal and elegant, very sharp, and I wanted to make sure to do her justice, but I also didn't want to like exaggerate it and make her look ridiculous. And since I didn't have a sketch to use, I was just laying the paint down and like hoping that it was right. So it definitely did take a few tries and a little back and forth of like skin and like shadow and you know. Her lips were another really difficult area to work on. Again, I just couldn't get the shape quite right. I didn't want to make her mouth way too long and wide and mess up the entire bottom half of the painting, but I also needed to make sure that her chin and jawline had the correct proportions. I think I may have made her a little too pouty, and it's a little skewed to one side, but I don't think you really notice that unless you're specifically looking at her mouth, so I'll let it slide. Adding detail to the eyes is one of the easiest ways to make a painting look more polished and complete without doing anything. Eyes are also one of my favorite things to paint. They were a little difficult to do mainly because I was sitting off to one side to avoid getting in the camera's way, so I didn't have as much control over the paintbrush as I wanted, but I am really happy with the way they turned out. I especially love like the shadows that the eyelashes cast. That's always a really satisfying part of any painting. If those are there, I love doing that. And then the little hair wispies, another favorite thing to paint. I always end up overdoing the hair, but when someone has curly hair, I can't control myself. It's just so fun to paint. It's so fun. Getting those really bright little strands, it's icing on the cake, you know? Her hair was so much fun to do. I loved all the colors in it. Like, curly hair, listen, I just love painting curly hair. It's a weak spot for me. And then of course the highlights on her skin and eyes, which are usually like the very final touch of my portraits. I think those bright white highlights can really genuinely bring together a painting. Like, it makes it feel complete. I kept them to a minimum here because I really didn't do too much contrast anywhere on her face except for her eyes. So having like random, like really white highlights in too many places would look weird and off balance. I tried to just keep them where I thought they'd be the most impactful and dulled the white down with some yellow and red. When I finished the painting, I thought it could use a little something else, so I painted some gold stars around her to add a little spice. I actually really like the way it looks with her. I think the whole color scheme is really nice, and that gold like really goes with it. It adds like that little extra punch, makes it feel, you know, a little bit magical. And again, I just think it's all very soft and light and pretty, and I really like it. I like the colors a lot. Also, the fact that like her skin is very warm and like yellow and pink, and then everywhere surrounding her is very cool tone, like it's nice contrast. All in all, I'm actually really happy with the way this painting turned out. I was really worried before and during the painting process that I was gonna like totally fail Erin for a second time. And the painting isn't perfect, but I think you can definitely tell it's her. So yeah, for me, it's a win. I like it a lot. I think it's really pretty. Thank you, Erin, for letting me use your beautiful face for a video. Thank you for letting me paint you. I love you. You're the best. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you had a great time. I really enjoyed it. Maybe like, subscribe, comment, check out all my links down below. Check out my editor. You all are amazing. I appreciate you so much. Okay, go call your mom, go write in your journal, take your meds, and go do some art. Okay, bye guys.